So, in summary, although the original manipulation of implicit gender self-stereotyping yielded inconsistent results, I argue that it may be due to the fact that it allowed for too much deliberation. So in the final study, I used a new paradigm that utilized subliminal presentation speeds. So in summary, and with some exceptions, my dissertation research demonstrates overall that negative implicit gender self-stereotyping can increase women's implicit self-esteem. And this is in line with social identity theory, which argues that associating oneself with in-group stereotypic traits can be enhancing to one's self-image, even when the traits are negative, as it appears to allow group members to feel included and prototypical of their in-group. Lastly, the finding that negative implicit gender self-stereotyping can increase women's implicit identification with feminine careers is in line with my predictions that negative implicit gender self-stereotyping may subconsciously prevent women from striving for these higher status, more prestigious, competitive, and traditionally masculine occupations. So what are the implications of this work? Implicit gender self-stereotyping is a cognitive process that underlies women's self-image and career attitudes. So this work can help us to understand women's self-image, and it can also help us to understand why women are underrepresented in masculine fields and how it's connected to women's self-image and career attitudes. So I'm to my acknowledgement slide. I have a lot of people to thank, so just bear with me. First, I wanted to thank my advisor, Louise. So Louise constantly pushes me to improve my research skills, and I really appreciate your guidance and mentorship, and your enthusiasm for research is highly infectious and inspiring, so thank you. Then I also wanted to thank the members of my fabulous dissertation committee, so Edie, who's on Skype, Kent, who's right here, and then Bonnie, who's in the back. So in addition, I wanted to thank the lab, the RISC lab, and I've had a lot of research assistants help me to collect all of this data. So I put all their names up here, and I have two in the audience. We have Liliana and Brianna in the back, two of our fabulous research assistants who've helped, again, collect all this data. Then I wanted to give a special thanks to my on-campus support system. So that's Ashley Chappelle, Alex, Lisa, and Asia, who couldn't be here today, so I couldn't have done all of this without you guys. And in addition, I wanted to thank my family. If I could get this to work here. I wanted to thank my family who was able to join us here today, and Louise pointed out earlier. I wanted to thank my mom, Vicki, who flew here from California, my Aunt Sandra, who flew in from North Carolina, and my Bryson's cousin, Alyssa, who is from New Jersey. And I wanted to thank you guys for your support, your endless support. And lastly, I wanted to thank my sister, Rebecca. She wasn't able to be here in person, but she's definitely here in spirit. And last but not least, I wanted to thank my fiance, Bryson, and our doggy baby, Luke, right here, for their endless support. So, thank you. Questions?
I'm just curious about your thoughts as to how you might apply the findings of this sort of, given the real-world implications of this kind of study, how you might apply this in terms of interventions for women or men at different points of development. What do you see as some of the implications of what you're doing?
Yeah, in terms of interventions, that was actually kind of the point of what my last study was originally intended to be. If my original set of studies had worked out a little bit nicer, I had actually wanted to administer an intervention to try and intervene, and if there were these detrimental impact on self-esteem and career attitudes, to administer a self-affirmation as a way to kind of intervene there. But since I had some difficulties with my manipulation task, I wasn't able to get to that point. But in terms of the long-term implications, it was actually quite surprising that we found that these negative female stereotypes have like an enhancing effect for women's self-esteem, that it wasn't as detrimental as one would maybe intuitively think. But one could argue that, again, these implicit gender self-stereotyping associations has somewhat detrimental implications for career attitudes, because they are implicitly striving for these feminine, stereotype consistent careers, feminine careers. And so it would be amazing if we could find a way to kind of circumvent that and find a way for women to be able to implicitly identify or be motivated to kind of go towards the stereotype inconsistent kind of careers. So that would be more masculine careers. So in terms of being able to find that, again, if I in an ideal world would have been able to administer a self-affirmation to see if that would have been a way to kind of do that, that would have been amazing.
Well, just a quick follow-up on that. Are the college years the time to do that sort of intervention? I'm just wondering because if it is these kinds of attitudes that are in part driving women's choices to enter the career market in one way or another, I'm imagining that there's sort of a life course piece of the development of those kinds of cognitions and self-stereotyping, et cetera. So, and I wonder if college would be almost too late. Do you have a sense of it developmentally of when would be the if your results did work out to suggest that it could meaningfully affect these attitudes? What would be the point of development that you think would be the optimal time to intervene?
Yeah, it's interesting because my aunt and I were having a conversation about that yesterday and kind of what would be a good age range, because it seems like maybe girls and young teenagers have career aspirations, you know, even before they get to college. So I would imagine, I mean, just anecdotally from my own personal experience, I don't know if in high school, if I had like a concrete idea of what I wanted to do, but maybe if high school was a time before you can get those women who have concrete career plans, you can influence them. So I would kind of think that maybe high school would be that good point where you can kind of manipulate and intervene there. So that'd kind of be my gut response.
Just related to Paul's point, a paper just came out in PNAS a few weeks ago showing, I think that the age was actually much younger than what you're talking about, like 7 and 8-year-olds.
Have career attitudes?
Well, so they were told to play, so each group played with a different toy, either a Mr. Potato Head, a Barbie dressed like a doctor, or a Barbie dressed like something else, like a stewardess or something.
Okay.
So it was a very simple manipulation. They played with these toys for 5-10 minutes, and they asked them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And either Barbie, whether she was a doctor or a stewardess or whatever, the girls who played with those had more sort of gender stereotypic responses. They sort of said gender stereotype careers, whereas the ones who played with Mr. Potato Head were much more even. So I can send you that paper, but it suggests that it's actually it could be happening a lot younger than you might guess.
Yeah, or maybe the kids are able to indicate a preference, but I don't know how much they would actually, like, years later, if they track them years later, that they would actually pursue it. I just feel like kids are very flexible and change their minds all the time, so I'm not sure.
That's definitely the case, but it does suggest, as many of your studies do, that a subtle manipulation could really change at least their attitudes in the moment about career implications. It just
sounds very interesting.
I'll send you the paper. It's interesting, and it's sort of related to what you're doing, where these sort of minor implications might have an impact on how they feel about themselves or how they feel about female-related careers.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.